On July 13th, while Donald Trump was in the United Kingdom, he continued his assault on the media, brushing off a reporter from the CNN by saying, CNN is fake news. Now, Mr. President, this was underscored yesterday by a question being asked by a White House press corps poll reporter at his meeting with the European Commission president. That reporter asked a question the president didn't like. Because the president didn't like the question being asked by CNN's Caitlin Collins in her role as a poll reporter, she was told that she will be banned from the next event that was open to press or otherwise open to all credentialed media. Then, yesterday at the Veterans of Foreign Affairs, the president said to the audience there not to believe what you see and hear. The president of the United States told a crowd of veterans, stick with us. Don't believe the crap you see from these people, the fake news. What you're seeing and what you're reading is not happening. Mr. President, that's the President of the United States saying those comments, again, demeaning the press and the importance of our free press. Earlier this year, why is the president doing this? Well, earlier this year, CBS 60 Minutes correspondent Lesley Stahl, an iconic in the news business, shared comments from Donald Trump from an interview she did with him soon after his 2016 election win. Stahl recalled that she said to Donald Trump about his attacks on the media, why are you doing this? You're doing it over and over. It's boring. It's time to end this. The candidate's response was straightforward and shocking. He said, and I quote, you know why I do it? I do it to discredit you all and demean you all. So when you write negative stories about me, no one will believe you, end quote. Let that sink in for a moment. A man who was about to assume the position of President of the United States explicitly acknowledging he was purposely working to diminish the integrity of the free press. After the Capitol Gazette shooting, Donald Trump said that journalists, like all Americans, should be free from the fear of being violently attacked while doing their job. But how do we interpret his sincerity when more frequently he's calling the media fake news or totally unhinged or telling the American people and the world that reporters are truly bad people? Donald Trump's constant dismiss refrain needs to end. He needs to accept the one of the press's most important roles is to speak truth to power, especially his. There's a reason why the leading newspaper in Helsinki bought 300 ads that says, Mr. President, welcome to the land of free press. The message is clear. He put that ad up to let Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin understand that one of the basic tenets of a democratic society is to embrace and respect the freedom of the press. In Russia, Putin routinely jails political opponents and journalists. Here at home, we're left to wonder whether Donald Trump is more inclined to agree with Mr. Putin's view of the press than that with Thomas Jefferson, who famously said, we're left to me to decide whether we should have a government without newspapers or a newspaper without government. I should not hesitate a moment to prefer the latter. As was written in the Washington Post, Donald Trump didn't create the problem of hostility to journalists, but he exploits it and exaggerates it. That's true, too, and the leaders of other countries who routinely call reporters enemies of the state, terrorists, and national security threats. And we must be vigilant in standing up to these empty accusations. Mr. President, after the tragedy at the Capitol Gazette in Annapolis, and most of the country rallied in support of the survivors of the mass shooting. They received tremendous outpour of support, including by this body. I know it was heartfelt. And yet, the paper has reported that it has received new death threats and emails celebrating the attack. This is sick and it's dangerous. It shouldn't happen in Annapolis, it shouldn't happen in America, and it shouldn't happen anywhere in the world. Journalists, like all Americans, should be free from the fear of being violently attacked while doing their jobs, both figuratively and literally. The right of journalists to report the news is nothing less than the right of all of us to know. Media freedom and media pluralism are essential for the expression of and ensuring respect for other fundamental freedoms and safeguarding democracy, the rule of law, and the system of checks and balances. Every one of us in this body, Democrats and Republicans, have sworn an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. As leaders of this great nation, we have a responsibility to defend the rights of our citizens, including the freedom of the press. It is enshrined in our Constitution: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. Just before the 4th of July recess, I had the opportunity to discuss the state of media and pluralism and the safety of journalists with the OSCE representative on freedom of the media, Harlem Désir. The representative plays a key role in calling out threats to and attacks on journalists, including murders and violent attacks. He also assists the OSCE participating states in fulfilling their commitments by providing them with expert opinions on media regulation and legislation. Unfortunately, Mr. Désir has his work cut out for him. In the aftermath of the tragic murders of the Capital Gazette headquarters in Annapolis, Mr. Désir sent his condolences and words of support. That mass shooting and the other instances I have just mentioned are all stark reminders of the incredible work that journalists do every day in big cities and small around the world, reporting on all the things that are important in our lives and the dangers they face doing it. I appreciate the sentiment from the OSCE representative on freedom of the media. I'm grateful to the other journalists at the Capital Gazette who have been carrying on their important mission even in the face of tragic adversity. And I'm grateful for journalists everywhere for their dogged pursuit of the truth. Mr. President, I yield the floor.